Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to be looking at this new metric analyzer that we've added to the ITC website. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. I've seen a lot of tools like this for other industries, like other asset classes, and so I thought, hey, maybe useful to do this for crypto. So we basically have this tool that we can say, all right, I want to know what the price of Bitcoin did after certain events. In this case, we're just going to start with moving averages, but we can build it out from here, right? But in this case, we're going to start with moving averages. Let's say that I want to know what happened every time in history the first time Bitcoin got a weekly close below the 50-week SMA. First time. You can do that and see what the ROI was 1 day later, 1 week later, 1 month, 3 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then 1 year. And then it'll give you the average, the statistics, and the significance. And what's cool about this is that you could then say, all right, well, on average, right? On average, after Bitcoin got a weekly close below the 50-week SMA, on average, 3 months later, the price was only up 3 to 4%. Okay? On average. There's some times where it was down a lot, sometimes not as much, but on average, the price isn't doing that great 3 months after a close below the 50-week SMA. What you could also do is you could say, all right, well, what about above? Like, what happens when it gets above it? And then you can see these examples where Bitcoin got a weekly close below the 50-week SMA after being below it. And in that case, you can see that so many times where that happens, the price of Bitcoin is a lot higher later on. Now, are there times where it's not? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. But on average, it shows you that Bitcoin tends to go up a lot after that signal. And there are some false reads where it'll get a weekly close above it, but then it won't confirm. And so what I'd like to do is add some other things on here to make it a little bit more, technical or a little bit more useful. Say, all right, well, what about 3 weekly closes in a row above it after being below it? Then what are the statistics, right? So we can build this out, but I thought this was kind of cool, and you can compare it to other assets. So like in this case, we're comparing it to Ethereum. You don't have to compare it to anything. You could just look at it for Bitcoin. But if you wanted to compare it to something, you could say, all right, well, what did Ethereum do after Bitcoin closed a price above the 50-week estimate? And you can see what Ethereum did 1 day later, 1 week later, etc. And of course, we have this tool for other assets as well, right? Like if you wanted to see, like, what does Solana do? Whenever it's closed above, say, its 20-week SMA, and on average, what's the price? So I think this is kind of a neat tool to be able to look at, and just kind of get an idea. And we're going to be adding to this. If you guys have any ideas that we could look at, maybe post them in the comments below so that we could code those up. Some ideas that we might be adding are like, the number of coins that are above their 50-week SMA. Like, when was the last time 100% of the coins in the top 25 or something closed above their 20-week SMA, and then what was the overall return of total market cap after that, 3 months later, 1 day later, etc. So, and here you can see, like, Bitcoin's returns on average when it got a close above the 20-week SMA, right, above it. And on average, you can see that a month later, Bitcoin's up 3%. 3 months later, it tends to be up about 40%. And then 1 year later, it tends to be up about 376% on average. And perhaps we should come up with a way to exclude earlier price action, because, like, obviously in 2012, when it went up 2,300% or something, like, obviously we're not expecting that. But I mean, by excluding some of those data points, it might make it so that you can get something a little bit more believable, right? A little bit more believable. And maybe looking at sort of the 3 months time frame, the 1 month time frame, can give you an idea of what in fact might be going on. And then of course we could look at longer term moving averages, like a 200-week SMA, and when Bitcoin has closed below that, what's the average return a year later? You can see in 2015 it was 155% up a year later. Again, a little bit later on, 164% up in 2020, almost 1,000% up. 2022, 30% up. 2022 again. 21, 2023, 160% a year later, 2023 again, 125% a year later. We don't have it for earlier because it just takes a long time to have enough data to have a 200-week moving average, right? I mean, it's almost 4 years of data to just even have it. So that's why it doesn't go back as far as you might otherwise like. But definitely a tool, I think, that's going to be useful. And we'll talk more about it in the coming months. Again, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. And if you want access to this, check out ITC Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.